before you can even get to the point of pitching. Number one, you want to know who to pitch to. Business foundation is so key, right? And so having that checklist, having all your ducks in order, all your documentation is definitely the first step, and you're just getting started, right? But that's the most extensive step, because the thing about most small business entrepreneurs that I find is that they're, and I can include myself because I was here too before. This is how I know we're very unorganized. You don't even know what an operation agreement is or where to find it. People don't know where to find their EIN document. They don't know what the bylaws, what that is, where to go get one. They don't know these things. And so having your business foundation set is going to be key, because that's going to prepare you for the long-term sustainability in your business that you need to grow and scale.
You're listening to the Black to Business Podcast, an educational podcast providing Black entrepreneurs with the tools and resources to start and grow their businesses. We chat with vetted Black entrepreneurs, thought leaders, and business owners as they provide tips and resources to help take your business to the next level. I'm your host, Monique T. Marshall. Welcome back to the Black to Business Podcast. So today's topic is on all things related to government contracts. Now, although historically, securing government contracts haven't been the most popular choice when people think of growing their businesses, but now more than ever, entrepreneurs are catching on. That's why we are delighted to have Dr. Karwanna D. Irving as our guest today to speak about government contracts and how to successfully secure one. Dr. Karwanna is the founder of She's Got Goals and the $1 Trillion Secret to Government Contracts. She teaches small business entrepreneurs how to grow their businesses with government contracts so that they can have consistent income and get paid top dollars by the number one largest purchaser of services in the U.S. without chasing customers. Over the past couple of years, this government contract strategist has helped over 200 plus business owners generate upwards of $3 million and growing in revenues. Amazing. And today she's going to share some tips with you on how you can be on the road to doing the same. So in this conversation, Dr. Irving and I are going to talk about the benefits of working with the government in general and specifically for Black entrepreneurs. We're also going to talk about how to keep all the important details of your business organized and some of the common mistakes when creating proposals and what's needed to actually obtain a government contract. So even if you're well into the rhythm of running your business, this episode could teach you something new. So make sure you're taking some notes. And without further ado, let's dive in. Dr. Irving, welcome to the Black to Business Podcast. So excited to have you here. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we always like to start out with who are we speaking with, introduce my audience who we're speaking to. So if you could share a little bit about who you are, what is it that you do in your business, and kind of how you got where you are today.
Absolutely. So I am Dr. Karwanna D. Irving. I am a wealth creator. Basically, I show small business entrepreneurs how to leverage government contracts to create generational wealth, particularly those who are like minority-owned businesses. And so over the past 4 years, I've helped upwards of 200 plus entrepreneurs that are minority funnel an additional $4 million and growing back into their communities by teaching them the strategies of government contracts. I got started in this space. It's been about 15 years. Like, time goes by so fast.
Yes.
It's been about 15 years now. And I had no clue that small business entrepreneurs and those who are like high level providing services or products could sell products and services to the government. I had absolutely no clue when I was first getting started. It wasn't until I actually was introduced to the first Black billionaire locally in my town that I discovered how he got to where he was. And he simply just shared with me the same thing that you're doing while you're chasing customers and begging and convincing people to use your services. And at the time I was selling video production and photography services. He said, you can sell the same thing to the government and they will pay you very lucrative contracts for that service.
Thank you. Thank you for not gatekeeping. We love that. Sharing that information.
Yes.
That's good to hear.
For sure.
And so I love all of the years of experience. So we got somebody that knows what they're talking about on the Black to Business Podcast today. Mm-hmm. So today's topic is all about how to make millions pitching and winning government contracts as a small business. So we like to break it down on the Black to Business Podcast. So let's talk about the importance of government contracting. So For someone who's listening, trying to understand what it is, what is government contracting exactly? Like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah, so a few key things. There are ideally three types of business models. Most people are familiar with B2C, which is business to consumer, or B2B, which is business to business. Most people are not familiar with B2G, which is business to government. That is the most effective business model that allows you to quickly scale and grow your business revenues significantly, right? And so now one specific contract or one particular contract could literally be worth 10 years worth of revenue when it comes to individual regular customers, right? Regular paying customers. And so it's a totally big difference. And so government contracting in the simplest form is really just exchanging products or services with the government in exchange for large lucrative contracts. So basically it's like acquiring the government as a client, and they are the number one biggest client in the world that you could ever acquire.
I love that breakdown. And I love the fact that you said 10 years of revenue. Oh, wow. I love that. Dr. Irving, how important is it to entrepreneurs in their business when it comes to government contracting? Like, how important is this for them to know about it and be aware of it?
I think that, like, for me, when I first discovered government contracting, even for myself, it literally took me from struggling, chasing customers, barely making ends meet, bringing in about $20,000 to $30,000 a year, but working 40 to 50 hours a week, right? Doing that. And it took me from there to 10xing my revenues in a single month.
Wow.
When it comes to government contracts, it's very important that more people are aware of this, especially in our Black and brown communities. More people need to be aware because if you have no money, you have no power, and economics is very powerful, right? And so we talk about things in our communities like we march about gentrification, and we march about violence and all these things that are happening, where it all stems down to lack, and it all stems down to poverty, and all stems down to needing more money flowing through our communities into our families' homes. And so it's very key for me. Like, it's more than just about a business getting access to money just so they can go pull up in a Rolls Royce or something like that. It's more than just you cannot be selfish when it comes to government contracts. You have to have a big vision of being a contributor to society and creating global impact as an entrepreneur. And I believe that every small business entrepreneur has the ability to be that beacon of light in their community when they really understand government contracts. So it's very key. It's very essential to breaking out of middle class, working class, like that tax bracket that if you did not know, in case you didn't know, that the middle class and the working class and the poor are paying the highest amount in taxes. In fact, you pay up to 50% of your earned income in taxes unless you break through a certain financial threshold. And so it's very key for small businesses to break through that threshold. Now, ideally or statistically, we were told and we were taught that it's, you should think about business as a 2 to 5 year game plan to turn a profit. It may take 2 to 5 years to grow and build. Well, what I discovered was all of that is just a myth. If you do business with the right player in the first place, you can actually be highly profitable within your first 6 to 12 months in business. And I'm not talking about making a couple, tens of thousands. I'm talking about making hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars in your first year of business when you're doing business with the government.
Dr. Irving, you are on fire. And it's only 6 minutes in. You are on fire. I love it. I'm over here like shaking my head. Yes, yes, yes. So I love the fact that you spoke about the importance, especially when it comes to the Black community. And I just want to dive into that a little bit more. What are some of the maybe statistics or things, the facts that are out there regarding government contracts when it comes to Black entrepreneurs? Maybe it may be the amount of contracts that we get, or just even that awareness and not being aware.
I think that a lot of people are not aware, even though there's, government contracting is starting to be a little bit more of a buzzword. And so people may start to become aware that it exists. But the biggest problem is most people don't understand how it works or how to get started in the government contracting space. So most entrepreneurs don't even know what it looks like to even qualify to do business with the government. Like you cannot just show up any kind of way, right? There's a specific persona that the government actually awards lucrative contracts to, and that persona entails having all your paperwork in order, whether you're a sole proprietor or an LLC, and it doesn't matter the tax election. You could be a S corp, C corp, all of that does not matter. You just have to make sure that you have your bylaws and your operations agreement, and all of your paperwork. You have to have all of your taxes in order. 2 to 3 years of taxes, whether or not you filed personal taxes because maybe you haven't been in business for 2 to 3 years, or they're business taxes. So you do have to have all of your ducks in order and be that credible business that shows up to do business with the government. There's a lot of course, red tape. Most people don't understand how to navigate the government contracting space. It's not something that anybody can just jump in, and it's not something that's it's a trend here today, gone tomorrow. This is something that's been around like for centuries, right? And usually it's those highly qualified, very successful 500 Fortune companies like Amazon and what do you call it? Tesla and like Canon, like those types of companies, they're already doing business with the government. That's how they got to where they are. And so the great thing about government contracting for minorities and small business entrepreneurs who operate at a high level is there's a level playing ground. Like we get the opportunity to do business just like all of these other companies, which will allow us in turn to grow, to be a large company and be the employers of tomorrow.
I love that. And you definitely, one of my next points was going to be about the size, because people who are listening are like, okay, maybe my team isn't big enough to handle government contracts. So what would you say about the size of a company? I know you said small business to handle these contracts.
So when I say small business, you will be surprised that by the Small Business Act, the definition of a small business is any entrepreneur that has under 500 employees, right? Mm-hmm. And so that is a huge ray, right? It's a huge line between like a micro small business and a small business in general, but they're all considered small businesses. So if you have one employee, you're considerably a small business. You're a micro business. Like, in fact, you're a disadvantaged business, right? Or if you don't even have any employees at all. But when it comes to size, it could just be you. When I first got into the government contracting space, I had a sole proprietorship and it was just me. I did all the work. I wore all the hats, all that. And I'm not saying that that's somewhere that everyone should start, but if that's where you are, you start where you are. And then as you gain these lucrative contracts, of course, then you want to start building out your team and identifying strategic partners that you can partner with to go after even larger contracts. And so, yeah, you can be a solopreneur, like most small businesses are. They're solopreneurs and get a government contract.
Perfectly explained. Okay. And so, Dr. Irving, would you say that there are different types of government contracts? If so, what are they?
Yeah, there's definitely different types of government contracts. There are, like, most government contracts are in 2 to 5 year terms, ideally. Some of them are renewable up to 10 years. And so this is where consistent sustainability of your income comes in. And I would say, like, there's micro contracts, which is like any type of contract that's under 10,000. There's like simplified acquisitions, which is on the federal side, any contract above 10,000, under 250,000. And then there are just general contracts, which is a little bit more competitive. And those could be, depending on your industry, the scope of work, the length of the contract, those could be hundreds of thousands. It could be hundreds of millions and even hundreds of billions, depending on your industry and the scope of work that you provide. So there's different types of contracts, and every type of contract requires a different skill set and knowing how to respond to those opportunities. But it's definitely a lot of opportunities that are out there, and they're pushed out daily.
So people are listening. They are definitely hearing these numbers that you're dropping, and they're like, I want in. So how do I qualify? So you did kind of touch on when it comes to the paperwork, having your business taxes and such in order. I want to dive more into the qualifications. So what would you say are some other things, or is that it that makes a business qualify for government contracts? Like, what are some things that people should know?
Ideally, there's two things that you should have. Number one, a business, like a legally formed business. Because a lot of times people are, they do business, but they're freelancing and they think they have a business. But unless you have those, that checklist of items that I was talking about a little bit earlier, then you're not officially in business. So you do have to have a business in order to do business with the government. And then you also have to know what it is that you want to sell. Because, and I say that because a lot of times people hear these big numbers. People are landing $250,000, $500,000, even multiple $1 million contracts in this particular space. For just about everything, and the government buys everything, and they're like, oh, I want to do government contracts. What can I sell to them? Right? And they want you to tell them what they can sell to or should sell to the government. Well, whatever it is that you're selling to the individual, you can sell that to the government. Right? And so you have to know what you want to sell so that you can properly do the research and see what government agency is buying that, so you know who to direct your marketing efforts to, right? The people who buy it. And so you have to start somewhere. And for those who are, who are listening and just been considering like doing business with the government, or even considering just starting a business, I always say, if you don't really know what to sell to the government, don't look for the biggest payout. Don't look for the biggest check. Look for within, like look within for what are you passionate about? Like, what is your contribution to the world? What do you feel like your gifts are? Start with your gifts, because scripturally, the Bible says that how your gift will make room for you. So if you've been really good at, cleaning or cooking, all your life, and that's what you've been doing all your life, then you should sell, maybe catering services to the government, or even like janitorial services to the government. If you've really been good at talking to people and consoling people through their trials or whatever they've been going through, then maybe some type of coaching, consulting, or like mental health services is something that you want to sell to the government. But you have to take a look at yourself, because when you're in business and you're chasing money, you will get burnt out if you're not passionate about it. But when you're chasing your purpose, you can never get burnt out, because every day that you go to work and get up, you're very passionate about it, and it doesn't feel like you're working at all. So it's something that you can do, for 20, 30 years until you feel like you're just ready to kick back and do nothing.
Yes. And I love that. Like, chasing the passion, not the money. Yes. Really doing it for a purpose and why. So would you say that there is a process for someone who is listening and thinking, okay, I know what I need to do to get qualified. How long is this process going to take for me?
So typically, I have a 5-day challenge where I actually walk people through the qualifications process. So it's about an hour, so about 12 hours, really. So just consider a day of just getting. It takes a day to really get qualified. But the one thing about, I would say, in the challenge is you're not just going to get a checklist of here's the things that you need to have, but also who do you need to become, right? So that you can attract the government. And that's the big picture. That's 80% of the work, is actually becoming the person that's qualified to do business with the government. And so we go through that throughout the challenge. I help you become the person that actually the government will turn around and say yes to. And they will say yes very often when you understand how to position yourself. I show you how much the government is spending on your business products and services, so you can go in with a game plan of knowing how much you want to funnel back into your bank account, into your family's legacy, and into your community for the causes that you want to support.
Love that. Who you need to become. Be prepared. Love it. And so what are some of the challenges that businesses may run into once they qualify, or even throughout this process of having government contracts? Like, what have you seen, or some of the things you say, okay, you might run into this?
You definitely will run into navigating the government contracting space. Like, we all know, that the government, speaks a whole different language. There's all these acronyms that exist. There's all these strategies. There's different ways to respond to different type of contracting opportunities. There's different ways to position yourself in the government contracting space, whether you're going to be a prime or a sub, or maybe you're going to be a consultant doing the middleman piece. And so there's all of this information that's out there, and all the misinformation that's out there on cyber, in the cyberspace as well. And so really, one of the biggest mistakes that I see small business entrepreneurs or high-level entrepreneurs make is just listening to all these different voices and staying confused. When you listen to so many different voices, you actually get stuck. It makes you confused. And then also just not really having a blueprint or a guide, right? You have to find one person that speaks your language that you can understand and follow to implement the strategy that has helped them become successful. And when you implement and follow those steps, that blueprint, you also will have that same type of and replicate that same type of success. And so understanding the navigation of government contracts is one of the biggest like pitfalls that I see a lot of people bump their heads up against, and then they quit, right? You cannot be a quitter in this game because like I said, one contract can literally change your life. So I have a client that she was literally making no money in her business, and she had been in business for 2 years. And that's a real thing, right? That's the reality for a lot of entrepreneurs. You could be in business trying to figure it out for years before you even like make a dollar, right, in your business. And so anyways, she actually went through the challenge, got pre-qualified, invested in like coaching and consulting, followed my blueprint. And within 9 months, she landed her first $250,000 contract.
Wow.
Right. And so life changing. Like the first contract is $250,000. Like what client do you have right now that you can ask yourself is going to write you a check for $250,000? Like most people would say none, right? And so when you think about it from that perspective, it's like you got to get the government as a client. It's a no-brainer, right? Regardless of what it is that you think you know, what it is that you've been doing for all these years. If you're in business to make money and you really want to make build a legacy for yourself and your family, then this is something that you have to do. And I also want to say, this is how you break generational curses. Like it goes so deep for me. Like the whole perspective of a government contract, it just it blows my mind because I know that an entrepreneur who's working really, really hard to make, let's just say, maybe you've made your first $100,000, but it took you 90 hours a week, working overtime in order to do that. Well, one government, not only is that $100,000 taxed at 50% when you have no financial literacy of the tax code, and you're not even making enough money to break through a certain tax bracket. But one government contract of $250,000, $500,000, or even $1 million puts you in a different tax bracket, which also the more money you make with a strategy, the more you can minimize on paying taxes. And so this is how the rich get richer and the poor get poorer, because the poor, which is the working middle class, have no clue that you need more money, and you need it over a shorter period of time rather than over a longer period of time in order to actually have more money in your pocket.
So the biggest mistake you see people make is they're listening to too many people and they are confused. So people who are listening now, they're like, I'm going to listen to Dr. Irving because she's bringing it. So yes. So you really walked us through all the things, like the qualification, like what it actually is, government contracting and getting qualified. The next step for a lot of people is like, okay, I know what I need to do. Now I think I'm ready for thinking about the pitching process, like going up to these actual agencies and pitching my services. So what do people need in order to prepare to be at this step to pitch?
Yeah, so good questions. So in my book, it's called Don't Duck the Government, They've Got Your Money. It's all about how you can actually make millions pitching and winning government contracts. And I go through the strategies and steps that a person needs to take in order before you can even get to the point of pitching. Number one, you want to know who to pitch to for sure. There's a process. So I have a 4-step methodology. So I've taken all this noise in the marketplace and all these different steps and strategies that are out there and basically condensed it to help people get results much faster. So instead of taking 2 to 5 years to figure it out, you can actually get results in your first 3 to 6 months, right? By following this particular system. So number one, business foundation is so key, right? And so having that checklist, having all your ducks in order, all your documentation is definitely the first step, and you're just getting started, right? But that's the most extensive step, because the thing about most small business entrepreneurs that I find is that and I can include myself because I was here too before. This is how I know we're very unorganized. You don't even know what an operation agreement is or where to find it. People don't know where to find their EIN document. They don't know what the bylaws, what that is, where to go get what. They don't know these things. And so having your business foundation set is going to be key, because that's going to prepare you for the long-term sustainability in your business that you need to grow and scale. The second step is certifications, right? So there are, although there are hundreds of thousands and even trillions of dollars in government contracts that's available on an annual basis. In fact, in 2019, the U.S. federal government alone spent $6 trillion on business products and services, right? Those are the services and the products that we sell as entrepreneurs. And in 2020, during COVID, that increase went up by 4 trillion. So that's 10 trillion. Now, 26% of that spend on the federal level was obligated to go to small business that are certified, right? And that's $2.6 trillion that was on the table. Now, this second step is very key. Now, you don't necessarily have to have certifications in order to do business with the government, but certifications gives you leverage to go after that $2.6 trillion. So if you didn't get your piece of the pie, then you have to follow these steps that I'm sharing with you, so that this time next year, you will have gotten your piece of the pie. And so that's the certifications. Now, the next step is marketing. You have to market yourself to the government by identifying what government agencies are buying your stuff and marketing and letting them know that you exist and how you can serve them. Now, the best way to position yourself is not to just pitch, buy this stuff, right? Or buy this service or whatever, is not to just pitch that, but it's to position yourself as a problem solver. Now, that's the thing. The government awards large lucrative contracts to businesses and entrepreneurs who solve problems. What are some of their problems? Well, a lot of times their problems are, well, maybe they don't have enough events going on in the local city and county, right? So as an event planner, you want to help them solve that problem, and they will pay you very well for that. Maybe there's a lot of homelessness issues that is going on, which homelessness is on the rise nationally, if not internationally, right? And so if you can resolve by offering room and board and care, they will pay you very well for that. And so you want to know who's paying it to market to that agency. And then the fourth step is proposals, right? So this is the pitch part. Submitting proposals. Ideally, those types of issues that the government is saying, here's a problem I'm looking for a business to solve. In fact, a percentage of this budget is going to go to women-owned, minority-owned, local businesses that are certified. If you can solve this problem, we'll give you a piece of the pie, right? And so by responding to those pitches or proposal opportunities, then that actually gives you access to landing those lucrative contracts. But there are also ways that you can pitch directly to the government for problems that they have, that you've been aware that they have, but maybe they're not aware that they have it. So you can also directly pitch to the government. Business, certifications, marketing, and then proposals, that is a process. And then you definitely want to rinse and repeat, continue marketing and continue pitching proposal opportunities to solve problems.
So good. So good. And Dr. Irving, would you say that there are some things that people shouldn't do or businesses shouldn't do when they're submitting their proposals?
I think that, well, one of the key things that you should do with submitting proposals is to read and double check, double check your work. I think that a lot of times people are intimidated when it comes to the proposal writing process, but really it's just a call and response, right? I mean, we all grew up in the church where there's a call and response, right? And so a proposal, you want to think of it as a call and response. So they're asking you, what are your qualifications? And your response is, my qualifications are. That's what your response should be. They're asking you who's on your team. Your response should be X, Y, and Z are on my team. They're asking you, how do you solve this problem and how much are you going to charge us for it? Well, I'm going to solve this problem by ABC, and you spell out your methodology, and then you say, I'm going to charge you this price. And so it's a call and response thing. But when people see like 50 pages of information and they're like, oh my God, I can't do this, right? Or I quit, or it's too much to go through. But you want to know what's on the other side potentially of those 50 pages. If you take your time and read and just respond, perhaps $250,000 or more in a contract for that 1 year to deliver your services. And so, I mean, anybody can, I don't know about you, but I would love to, add an additional $250,000, to my revenues like that. For some people, that's like double, triple, or even quadruple what they're currently doing in business. And you can do that with just one client.
Wow. Dr. Irving, this has been so amazing. And people, like I said, they're listening and they're going to want to work with you. So I just want to talk about what you do and what you offer. So if you could share with my audience some of the services and programs that you provide to help them.
Absolutely. So in my book, Don't Duck the Government, They've Got Your Money, I talk about a lot of these strategies as well. You can go grab a copy at don'tduckthegovernmentbook.com. But ideally, for those who are ready to take their business to the next level and you want to get yourself pre-qualified with my help, I have a 5-day challenge. It's govconchallenge.com. That's where you will go to register, govconchallenge.com. It's only $297. Now, booking me for a one-on-one as a consultant, it's upwards of $5,000 for the hour to book me. And why? Because I know that $5,000 advice that I'm going to give you is going to turn it at least into, at minimum, $50,000 in government contracts at minimum. So that's 10x, right? And so for $297, you get to spend 5 days with me, $297, learning and getting your business pre-qualified and becoming the person and walking away with a game plan. So it's a no-brainer. And the reason why I do this is because I'm getting government contracts for myself. I'm building a legacy. The government has funded 10 acres or more in land for me. And this is a girl coming from the inner city who had nothing. The government has funded rental properties for me. They funded me from living in the projects to buying my first, 5-bedroom home. The government is paying for all of that. And so for me, and now I feel like I have something that I can pass down for generations to come. And so for you, if this is something that you want to do as well, then allow the government, to be your partner and let them fund your legacy. And so for me, the reason why I do this for other people is because I've lived in the urban communities. I'm African American. I understand the blight that goes on. I understand that we're so far behind from others, right? And I understand the power of economics in our communities. And when we funnel that money directly from the government back into our communities, now we're able to impact our communities on a higher level and as a byproduct, impact our generations, right? By passing down and creating generational wealth. And so this is the reason why I'm passionate about helping other people become pre-qualified. But you have to be a visionary, right? You have to be a big picture thinker, right? In order to work with me. And the GovCon Challenge is a prerequisite in working with me in my coaching program. That is the prerequisite because I only want people who are highly qualified and they understand the roadmap. They have a game plan so that they can be highly successful to apply to work with me in my premium program.
I love that. And Dr. Irving, one of the things I want to mention is that you spoke about earlier how you initially did a lot of this yourself. And I would love for you to share how you up-leveled yourself as a leader, but also your team throughout this process, like once you gained that contract that changed your business.
Sure. I always talk about, so I've had lucrative contracts. I've been awarded $1 million contract before, multiple contracts simultaneously. And so for me, initially, when I was the very first contract that I've had was that I was awarded was $70,000, and it was literally for just 28 days of work. So $70,000 for just a month. I was able to reel in versus making chasing individual customers $20,000 to $30,000 a year, and I was struggling and couldn't even pay my bills, right? So I was able to do that in a 28-day period. And so because of those types of contracting opportunities, I was able to initially go from me being the person doing all the work to gradually bringing on and training team members to go out in the field to do work. And then for me, immediately, the first year in government contracting for me, I was like, I need to tell everyone about this. I need to tell all, especially Black folks, everyone that has a business, they need to know that government contracting can change their lives, right? And so, all people are not created equal. Some people get the information and they don't believe, right? And there's nothing that we can do for non-believers, right? They don't believe that this can happen for them. They believe that it's overcrowded already or it's too much competition. People believe things and it holds them back, right? Certain things, right? But there are people out there who are like, I'm ready for change. I'm ready for this is the client that I've been waiting for. You're talking about a premium client that awards lucrative contracts like that. for me, that's when I opened up my coaching program and started showing people this is how you do it. Initially, I was telling people, go do this. You should go do this. And then they were failing because they didn't know. They didn't know the things that I knew. They didn't understand. And then they run into information overload that is out there. And then I say, you know what? I want to really help people have success and change their lives. And so I started showing people, do this first, do this, and do that. And I'm going to coach you through it. And if you have questions, I'm going to make sure that all your questions are answered so that they become the expert, because you grow exponentially when you share information with other people who become the expert, who can also share the information with other people. And it just kind of echoes, right, throughout the United States, it echoes throughout the world. And so just imagine, Black economics. Like we're always talking about Black Wall Street. Everybody in their state has some type of Black Wall Street, but the Black Wall Street is just like, it's probably one or two people that's really making good money, right? Okay, well, what about the rest of the Black owned businesses that are out there? Like everybody has the ability to make lucrative contracts or land lucrative contracts in the government contracting space, and we can have a real economic empowerment movement and a real let's bank Black and let's put this money back into our Black communities and our Black causes and hire Black teachers and pay for salaries and things of that nature. And so for me, it's a bigger picture. And that's the reason why I got my coaching program to impact the Black community.
I love it. Love the work that you are doing. And you're welcome. And I just want to also ask about, like, as a leader, how do you stay organized? Are there any tools and resources that have been helpful for you?
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, as you grow now, I would definitely say as you grow in business, you definitely want to get to the point to where scalability is feasible for you. And you cannot scale doing everything manual on paper. So there are like you have to have a CRM system, which stands for customer relations management system, that allows you to build all your government agency contacts, your prime contractor contacts, and all of your potential strategic partner contacts. And at the click of a button, you can send an email to all 20,000 people at one time and start getting those responses that you're looking for. And so having a CRM system in place, having an accountable or accounting system in place for your invoicing and keeping track of how much money you're getting. Literally, before I understood scalability and systems and having these things in place, I would forget to invoice. Like I had so many contracts, I would forget to invoice. And they're like, can you invoice me? We didn't get your invoice. I'm like, I'm leaving so much money on the table. Oh, let me put something in place so I can track the how much, who owes me, how much money I need to invoice, how often I need to invoice. Is it 30 days? When that contract is getting ready to close out, what new contracts I'm at. So you have to be able to manage all of those things. And also you want to track your success in bidding, right? And winning, because that percentage, that conversion percentage, like that's, once you understand your numbers, that allows you to scale from there as well. And so some of the tools that I actually developed, and they're free tools. So for those who go through the challenge, like you get access to all of these tools. I developed a calculator tool that allows you to have predictable income. Like you can actually predict how many bids you want to submit, the percentage of your wins, how much money you would land based off the amount of the contract, and you can actually scale that, right? So those type of tools, we have tools for those who join as VIP, the $297 level. It's a estimating calculator tool that allows you to estimate your cost sheets for the government, so that you're not leaving any money on the table and forgetting like to include things like travel and per diems and all those rental of equipment and all that stuff, or maybe even staff. And so because a lot of times we just throw out a number and we don't really know that we have all of these hidden expenses that we didn't consider, and then you end up being not profitable because you forgot. And so having those type of tools is definitely going to be key in business as you grow.
Amazing. So now, what advice would you tell to someone who's in their first year of business?
I would say when you're in your first year in business, I think people who are just starting their business, I mean, you get to skip all the headaches when you find a blueprint that works, like government contracts. Like, so when people are like, I just started my business, is the GovCon challenge for me? And I'm like, it's the perfect place to start, because guess what? You get to start your business profitable within your first year.
Right.
You get to start your business understanding who you need to become and what you need to have and who's buying your stuff. You get to start that way, as opposed to someone who's been in business, 5 to 10 years and they've been struggling. Now they have all of these things that they're unaware of that are mental blocks for them. Right? All of these things, because people have told them no and people have cheated them. Then they have all of these mental blocks and all this trauma that they're bringing into their business. And so newbies are in the very best position, but this can even work for you, even if you've been in business for 30 years. But it's just like, you have to go through a personal professional makeover. You have to become a different person in order to get the different results. And you have to be willing to get out of your own way and be coachable for this to work for you. But yeah, it can absolutely happen for someone who's new in business.
I love that. And I also love the fact that you spoke about like getting a blueprint, because I think so many times people, especially when they're starting their business, they don't want to invest in themselves. And I think that's the way you skip the headaches. Like, find somebody and then go ahead and invest. So I love that.
It's funny that you say that, because I used to be that person. It's crazy. Like, when I'm talking about when I was broke, busted, and disgusted, when I was chasing customers, my whole mentality was I could do it all by myself. I'm not investing in a coach. I'm not investing in tools. I'm not investing in those systems. And I remember very clearly going to like the small business expos, right? And they would have these vendors there, and the vendors are like, get PayPal, get a CRM system, get this and get that. And I'm like, nope, I'm just going to do it myself. Right. Get an email campaign. No, how much is it? $75 a month. No, I'm just going to do it myself. And I was thinking by saving that money that I was actually going to be making more money, but it actually works in reverse, right? By saving that money and missing out on those type of tools to help you do things more streamlined and more efficient, more effectively, it actually cost me a lot of money. And so I didn't know I was leaving money on the table. But when I did invest in that CRM system, and I actually started putting money up front, then on the back end, it helped me break through six figures, multiple six figures, and even millions of dollars in revenue. And it's crazy how it works, because we've been taught to save money. Well, scripturally, again, because as you can see, I built my business off the principles of in the Bible. Scripturally, it says to plant seeds and harvest it, and it says to give, and it shall be given unto you. So you cannot hold your seed. You have to invest it in things that you believe, right? Because if you don't believe in yourself, how can you expect or even ask someone to put their time, their knowledge, their expertise in you for free? You cannot do that. So people who think free, they attract free. Like, when you think broke, you attract broke. And that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned. And so moving forward, I started investing in coaches. And these were like, I had to overcome, trust me, I had to overcome my limited beliefs that I'm spending money. No, when you're investing yourself and you do the work, you actually make way more money and you release some abundance into your life. And so I remember the very first investment that I made, it was a $2,000 investment to teach me how to set up one of my businesses, my programs. And I was like, I've never invested at that level, never invested $2,000 before, but that $2,000 turned into $20,000 in 1 month. And so I was like, whoa, let me try this again. And so I got another coach. I invested $10,000. That $10,000 it turned into $200,000 in a single month. I said, oh my God, giving is the way to receiving. This is crazy, but you got to do the work, and you got to be willing to be coachable and open and do the work and not make excuses. I think that one of the biggest things that one of the biggest pitfalls that I see is like a lot of small business entrepreneurs, they're always looking for other people to blame for their success or their failures or whatever. They're always looking for someone else to blame. No, if it's meant to be, it's up to me. It's up to you to do the work. People can lead you, guide you, but you have to do the work, and you have to be responsible for your downfalls or whatever. You got to be willing to grow and to know better and all these other things in order for you to grow. So just last year, I'm gonna tell you this because this is the evolution of Dr. Karwanna. Like, I wouldn't give nobody a dime before. I'm like, but I was broke. And so just last year, I made my first $200,000 investment, my first multiple six-figure investment into a coach. And guess what? It was for 8 hours of his time. And most people would be like, I would never do that. You must be crazy. But you know what? That $200,000 investment to pick his brain, because all people always like, let me just sit and pick your brain. Well, you can't pick my brain for free. This $1 million game, you got to invest in yourself. Because I understand the power of investing and reaping the harvest. If you don't invest and reap, and you go reap the harvest, you're basically stealing from somebody else, and it's going to come back to you, right? And so I made an investment, $200,000, and it turned into over $4.6 million just by doing the work and following the steps. And so I believe in investing in myself, and I believe in other entrepreneurs investing in themselves. When I used to do what I do right now for free, I used to do it for free because I'm like, I want to share it with everybody. I have a big heart. I grew up in the church, and I'm a giver, right? And I'm like, I'm going to show people this stuff for free. They never took action. They never did anything. They never did any of the steps, right? But when I started having people invest in themselves and follow the strategies, they start paying attention, and they implemented the steps, and they started getting the results. And so my coach always tell me, when people pay, they pay attention. And so I cannot rob someone of their blessing by giving them something for free. You have to invest in yourself, because I know what it's done for me, and I know what that can do for you. It's like a faith walk, right? You have to be willing to put your money where your mouth is, and not just talk about you want to succeed, but show yourself and prove to your universe or your God or yourself that you believe that this will work for you. Because if you're not willing to invest in yourself, that also means that you're not willing to do the work, or you're afraid to do the work.
Wow, we just got a word in here. So it's like, where are you doing that at? Black to Business, come on. That was good. I love it. I love it. I love it. Dr. Irving, and finally, I want to ask you, what does it mean to you to be Black in business?
Wow. Okay. That's a good question. What does it mean to be Black in business? I think for me, it means to be a beacon of light, a beacon of hope, right? It's like having a business literally changed my life, my perspective on a lot of things. And it actually moved my tax bracket, and it helped me to create echoing impact throughout the world, right? I think that when you have more examples of Black success, we need that, right? When you have more economic power, like if someone were to come to me right now and say, our community, this is full of blight. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of young people dropping out of school, and here's what we need. We need a solution for this, right? And so when you're Black and in business and you're successful, then you can be a direct response. You can directly respond to the needs of those communities by becoming a philanthropist. Now that's a whole nother level. Philanthropy is a whole nother level. Because a lot of times people are like, I want to start a nonprofit. But most entrepreneurs started a nonprofit and they started broke. You ain't got no money. You got bad credit. You looking for grants, and you trying to get everything for free. Well, start a for-profit business, partner with the government, allow them to pour hundreds of thousands and even millions of dollars into your for-profit business that you can funnel for your nonprofit cause back into your community and create impact that way. It works, right? And so for me, I think that being Black in business just means solutions. It means resolve.
I love that.
Me. Yeah.
Solutions and resolved. I love it. I write that down. This has been amazing. So people who are listening, they're going to want to know, how can they find you, connect with you, and support you? So please do share.
Yeah. So you can follow me on Instagram at Karwanna D Speaks, on YouTube at youtube.com/Karwanna D. And if you go to the challenge, govconchallenge.com, you can actually join me and get yourself pre-qualified to land the #1 biggest purchaser of business products and services in the world as your client, and let them fund your legacy.
Love it. Dr. Irving, thank you again for being on the Black to Business podcast. And just thank you for the work that you are doing. We need it. This is legacy work, and we appreciate you. So thank you again for being on the show. You're welcome. Here we are at the end of another thought-provoking episode of the Black to Business podcast. Love to see it. Dr. Karwanna Irving provided some great insights into government contracting and how it's worthwhile for small businesses. So before we go, let's talk about a few of the key points from this episode. Dr. Karwanna highlighted the importance of having a solid business foundation, which will put you in the right place to secure a government contract. She also recognized that in addition to the incredible advantages of government contracting, business owners should be passionate about their businesses, their services, and their products. Dr. Karwanna mentioned that it's very common for people to quit in the middle of the process because of all the opinions they're hearing. But if you have a goal to reach for your business, then there's nothing that can deter you from your path. Today's guest has some great tools to keep you on the straight and narrow. So you can find out more about Dr. Karwanna and how to connect with her and the resources that she mentioned by visiting blacktobusiness.com/158. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the Black to Business family. We appreciate your support and listenership. I will chat with you next week, same time, same place.